The best comeback story in history. Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. Let's go. I am going to give you my analysis today, my interpretation of how we got here, and also thank all of you, the relatable audience out there, for the part that you played in making this happen, because we did have a role to play in this huge, great story that we can be so grateful to God for. We've got so much on today's episode. It's brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use code Allie at checkout, goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone has had a wonderful week. I'm sure you have. I am sure you are on cloud nine. I am on cloud nine. Oh my gosh. He did it. He did it, y'all. This is like the best comeback story ever. Okay, if you are tuning in for the first time, this is not how Relatable typically looks and sounds. I am not in my typical studio today, and so forgive the iPad look and sound. That will not compromise the content of this episode. This episode is mostly filled with happiness, gratitude, and enthusiasm. Of course, analysis, my interpretation of the results of this election. But also there are some things that happened last night that are not good, that we as pro-life Christians really need to take a serious look at. And then I want to talk about not only how we got here and where we are, but where we go from here. Let's start with some numbers at the top in case you fell asleep last night and you haven't tuned into social media yet and you have no idea what has happened in the past 24 hours. Welcome to reality. It's a great reality that we're living in right now, because Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States. Right now, he's got 277 electoral votes versus Harris's 224. Of course, you just need the 270 electoral votes to win. I was giving coverage last night for Blaze TV alongside Glenn Beck and Steve Deace and Matthew Peterson and Liz Wheeler, and it was a fun night. Liz and I, though, we dipped out at midnight. That was midnight Central Time, so 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. Eastern Time, because, we've got little ones. We knew that we were going to have to wake up early. And at that point, we were still waiting for the results from Georgia and Pennsylvania, even though it really looked like Trump was going to win those. And so we had been cautiously optimistic all night. We had kind of been holding in our celebrations, even though the atmosphere was really good. It seemed like on the Trump side, and it seemed really bad on the Harris side. There just felt like there was this undeniable momentum. And looking at the map and where the votes were coming in from, it was pretty easy to predict what was going to happen, even before we knew the results of Georgia and Pennsylvania. But of course, we didn't want to get too excited too fast, because in 2020, we kind of got ahead of ourselves, or at least I did. We thought that Georgia was going to go to Trump, and then suddenly a pipe burst in Fulton County and Georgia turned blue. And of course, that wasn't the only determinant of the 2020 election, but it didn't bode well for what was to come. And so I think all of us knew better than to get too excited too fast, but all the enthusiasm was bubbling up inside of us for sure. The energy was so high at Blaze Studios, as it was, from what I hear, everywhere that Trump voters were together. And so I'm sad that I left early, because literally as soon as Liz and I got off set, I was walking to my car with Chief Relatable. I get a text from my dad that says they just called Pennsylvania, and we ran back into the studio and we celebrated with everyone. And we knew at that point, okay, Trump's got it. He only needs one more state to get to 270. And they had already called Georgia. They then called Pennsylvania. He only needed one more state, and they hadn't called Alaska yet. And we knew that Alaska was going to go for Trump, because it always goes Republican. And so we knew that he had it in the bag. And then when I was on the way home, he called he called Wisconsin, or they called Wisconsin. And so that was it. We actually knew last night that Trump won the electoral vote. Harris, of course, has not conceded. From the reports I'm seeing, she is going to concede this evening. Why she is waiting that long, I don't know. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Even when Hillary Clinton lost against Donald Trump in 2016, she did call as soon as she knew the results of the electoral vote, she conceded the election. As difficult as that is to do, that's the right thing to do. You want the candidate who won to have their moment. But here's the thing. It's not just the electoral vote that we're looking at. It is also the popular vote. Trump lost the popular vote in 2016. He lost the popular and electoral vote in 2020. He might win the popular vote, which is wild. That is very hard for a Republican to do because the most populous cities in America are very blue. And typically, that's just not how it works out. According to Decision Desk HQ, Trump currently leads the popular vote with over 70 million votes compared to Harris's roughly 66 million. We still don't know for sure. The New York Times is saying it is likely that Trump wins the popular vote, but there are still votes left to be counted, and I don't have right in front of me which parts of which state still have votes left to count. The last time a Republican won the popular vote was George W. Bush in 2004. Prior to that, Republicans won the popular vote in 1988 when George H.W. Bush won the presidency. I mean, Harris is underperforming in every way. So she underperformed Biden. And we'll get more into this as we look down into the details of these election results, which are so interesting to me when you look at the shift from 2020 to today. But Harris underperformed Biden in every single state. Now, she won every traditionally blue state. There weren't really any big upsets with that. The swing states swung to Trump, at least the information that we have right now. As I'm recording this, we are still waiting on a few states. But the swing states that he needed swung to Trump. But she got Virginia, the only one that some people were hoping the blue state that would go to Trump. But she won Virginia. She won all of the traditionally blue states, but by a narrower margin than Biden won them in 2020. So, for example, New York, obviously a Democrat stronghold. Biden won it by 22 points. Harris only won it by 11. New Jersey, Biden won by 16 points in 2020. Harris only won it by 5. Oh my goodness. Republicans also took over the Senate, and they are expected to keep the House. The results are still incoming while I'm recording this on the House of Representatives, but the GOP is leading, which would be a real surprise. Okay, so if we get the trifecta, you guys, like if we get Trump, if we get the electoral vote, if we get the popular vote, if we get the Senate, if we get the House, I mean, that is, as Donald Trump said last night, and will play part of his victory speech, that is a mandate from the American people. That is a complete rejection and repudiation of progressivism. And this is a new kind of Republican Party. It's a unique kind of Republican Party that I don't even fully understand. A Republican Party that can garner the enthusiasm of Caitlyn Jenner and Allie Stuckey is like really something. It's really interesting to behold, that I've got a few theories about why that is and just a few interpretations of all of this information, and I'll give you that in just a second. Let me go ahead and pause and tell you about our first sponsor. We've got We Heart Nutrition. I love We Heart Nutrition. I use their supplements every day. This is a women's supplement company. It is family owned by an amazing godly couple, and they wanted to create a supplement company that helps women live optimally in alignment with God's purpose for our lives and health for our bodies. And it's been a real game changer for me. I take their postnatal vitamins, their iron supplement, their magnesium supplement, their omega-3s. I take all of these every day. And that is how I am looking and feeling so cheery, even though I was up until like 3 a.m. last night, because my supplements from We Heart Nutrition really do keep me healthy and feeling good and energetic, especially that iron supplement. It'll keep you from being anemic. It did for me. Go to weheartnutrition.com, use code Allie at checkout. You'll get 20% off your order when you do. Take their 20-second quiz and they will help you personalize your order. Go to weheartnutrition.com, code Allie. Okay, here are my initial interpretations and observations. Number one, the media in Hollywood holds very little sway. We've got Beyonce, we've got Taylor Swift, we've got the Obamas, we've got every major media outlet. They really made no difference for Kamala Harris. This campaign of joy did not work. Grandpa Tim Walz didn't work. Actually, if you look at the state of Minnesota, the New York Times has these maps that shows which direction every county in the country shifted from 2020 to now. Almost every county in the state of Minnesota shifted more towards Trump. Now, that doesn't mean that the majority of voters in those counties voted for Trump, because Minnesota still went for Kamala Harris. It's a pretty solidly blue state with a lot of conservative areas like many states are, but they shifted more toward Trump over the past 4 years since 2020. And that is significant. Like, he really doesn't carry as much weight in the state of Minnesota as I think they thought, in that like good old boy, middle of the road persona that he tried to show the country. It just didn't land. The manipulation didn't work. So Obama calling black men misogynists for not voting for Kamala Harris. Lying apparently did not work. Kamala Harris tried really hard to make you believe that miscarriage and abortion is the same thing, and that it fell flat. It didn't work. And that brings me to my second point, that Kamala thought that she would be able to run exclusively on abortion. Every speech that she gave, every debate moment that she had, every interview that she offered went back to abortion every single time. That is her calling card. That is what she is most enthusiastic about. That's what she is most passionate about. That has been the hallmark of her career since she was district attorney of San Francisco. She loves abortion. She loves Planned Parenthood. She will sacrifice any right that you have on the altar of abortion. And that is the only thing that she knew how to run on, because that is the only time she really sounds articulate and like she knows what she's talking about, which is completely demonic and depraved when you think about it. It was actually the same thing with Tim Walz in his debate with J.D. Vance. And so she thought that she could run on that and win, but she was wrong. People cared more about the economy and immigration than that. The truth is, for most people, abortion is an abstract issue. Now, it shouldn't be an abstract issue. We as pro-lifers see that it's not an abstract issue. It is a matter of life and death. It is something that God hates. It is abominable because it is murder, and not just murder, but murder of the most innocent and the most helpless, the most vulnerable class of people in all the universe, the unborn child. And so it's not an abstract issue, but for a lot of those independent voters, those people in the middle that Kamala Harris really wanted, a lot of those suburban moms that maybe aren't very politically engaged that she thought that she could get, for them, it really is an abstract issue. It is something that is not really ever going to affect their lives. They know that they will never be getting an abortion. It's probably not going to affect their kid's life, or they really don't want it to affect their kid's life. And so you are asking, Kamala Harris was asking that group of voters to vote based on a hypothetical that is probably not going to affect them, an abstract issue to them that is probably never going to impact their family. That is a difficult case to make when they are looking at things that really do affect their family in a tangible, physical way. The cost of groceries and crime, especially crime that is committed by people who should not be here in the first place, illegal immigrants. So what they cared about more, what that group of voters, what voters in general cared about more, was being able to afford groceries and gas and being able to walk in their through their neighborhoods safely, their communities not being riddled with crime because of the purposeful and unmitigated importation of unvetted military-aged illegal immigrants. And so this campaign that she pushed, this deceptive strategy of convincing people that miscarriage and abortion is the same thing and therefore you have to vote for the pro-abortion candidate, it just did not win. The third thing that I realized from this campaign, even before the results of last night, people don't want transgenderism. People don't want its effects in their life. The idea that a man is a woman because he wears lipstick and a dress was the bridge too far. A 6'2" male competing against the 5'4", 125-pound female on the soccer field or the volleyball court or in the swimming pool was just too much for most people. It is why you never heard Kamala Harris talking about transgenderism at all. Like, how does that feel, by the way, if you are in this group who believes that that Democrats care for you and care for your issues? Like, they are so embarrassed by this group and by this cause. They did not talk about so-called trans rights one time. In fact, she actively tried to hide her radicalism on this because you'll remember when she was running in 2020, she openly said, oh yeah, I believe in taxpayer-funded transitions for illegal aliens who are in detention. Like, that is her position. And she tried to hide that. And even if you look at their ads, whenever you would see them like waving the rainbow flags when they're talking about freedom, it would never have the trans colors on there. That was purposeful. People don't want any part of that. Like, even people like Caitlyn/Bruce Jenner, he doesn't believe in men in women's sports. Like, he doesn't believe in men in girls' spaces, at least as far as I understand. Now, obviously, we still really disagree because I don't think a man should even try to present himself as a woman or to call himself a female and to urge other people to call him female, because that is a lie. But I do think that is something that unites us on this side. Like, it is too far. It's too much. And as a mom of daughters myself, as a woman myself, when I hear vote for your daughters, vote for women's rights, I'm thinking I want to protect them from being violated in the bathroom or locker room. I want to protect them from illegal immigrant crime. And I want to protect my grandkids in the womb. And so I just think that that message of voting for women and it only means abortion and not protecting women's rights and privacy, it just wasn't going to work. The other interpretation, this is like the best underdog comeback story for the ages. They tried to murder him at least twice. They tried to impeach him while he was president. They convicted him a million times. They lied about him. They called him Hitler. They called us Nazis. I mean, they threw everything they absolutely could at him, at us. And people said, I don't care. I don't care what you call him. what you call me. And in fact, if you're working this hard at keeping him out of power, there must be a reason for it. And that actually motivates me even more to get him in power. And I say that as someone, as you guys know, I've never been a part of like the MAGA camp. I have never been someone who is a diehard Trumper. I was against him, or at least I was for other candidates in the primary. And yet I see this. There is a shift that happened after they tried to assassinate him for the first time. And I was nervous when the enthusiasm after that moment kind of waned when Kamala Harris got back into the race. But key moments since then have re-rallied that enthusiasm, and I think that's really what did it. And then last interpretation, until we get into a couple more things, is that God is obviously not done with Trump yet. I mean, speaking of his assassination attempt, God does nothing accidentally or spontaneously. And even if he hadn't won, that would still be true. Like, even if God had spared his life and he hadn't won the presidency, God would still be up to something that would be good and for his glory. And it could have just been to draw Trump to himself, and that would have been enough. But I'm glad it's also this. Like, what a great mercy for our nation. And I was just reminded of Daniel 2:21 through 23. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. To you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you, for you have made known to us the king's matter. And that would have been true if Kamala Harris had won, but I'm just glad. I'm so glad that she didn't. I'm so glad for this mercy on our nation. Like, either way, it is an era of Christian courage, but we get to have courage, and we get to have strong borders, and we get to have good foreign policy, and we get to have the real definition of female in policies like Title IX. We get those rights protected. States still get to pass laws that protect the dignity and the rights of unborn babies, and we get a good DOJ. We get a DHS that is not going to undermine the efforts of Arizona and Texas to secure their border. I mean, praise God for that mercy and for his sovereignty that has led us to this. All right. I want you to hear a little bit of Trump's victory speech, and then a few more of my analyses and data points that I think are interesting. But let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor for the day. Covenant Eyes exists to help you or your loved ones in your life battle the predation and addiction to pornography. We live in an age where porn is everywhere. It's on our phones, it's on social media, it's on every device, even that your kids have access to. And so it is so important that you have the tools on all of your technology to block porn, and also to make sure that you are being held accountable with a trusted mentor or accountability partner. That's why Covenant Eyes exists. Their software, their apps make it possible for you to be accountable, and for all of your viewing history to be transparent with someone that you trust. But also it makes it really easy to fight porn because it blocks it from your devices. So this is not only good for you, but it's also really healthy and helpful for your children as you partner with them and helping them create a healthy and biblical sexual ethic. So go to covenanteyes.com, use code Allie for your first 30 days for free. Try covenanteyes.com/Allie, code Allie. All right, that's enough of me for now. Let us play a little bit of Trump's victory speech that Chief Relatable and I watched last night on our couch as we were eating some celebratory In-N-Out. It was a very memorable America moment. Here's top 5.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. With every breath in my body. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
And here is another really great part of his speech. Shot one.
We made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Okay, that is awesome. I mean, just the enthusiasm, the energy is so high. I mean, I'm excited not just about the next 4 years, but the potential for the next like 8 to 12 years, because we could get a JD Vance in there in 2028. And then also in also 4 years after that. What is that? Like 2032? I can't even compute those numbers. So that would be amazing. I mean, we've got a lot of good options after Trump too, because you've got JD Vance. Of course, you know how much I love Ron DeSantis. I mean, his state of Florida, by the way, and we'll get into that, just amazing in shooting down those abortion and weed amendments and just so quick in counting their votes. The way that he has revolutionized the state. Sorry, I won't go off about Ron DeSantis right now, but we've just got some really good options. We have a lot of reason to be hopeful. I think this shows that America is so much more conservative than we are led to believe. Certainly more conservative than Hollywood and our current government that represents us. Okay, this was a really sweet moment that I saw that was originally shared by David Harris Jr. He shared this beautiful video of a group of people at Mar-a-Lago celebrating Trump's victory by singing a cappella, "How Great Thou Art." This is going to give you the chills. Here's shot 3.
I see the stars. I hear the rolling thunder. Thy power throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art!
Beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, praise God. They were at the right rally. They were at the right rally. I mean, it's just true that that would not have been happening at Kamala Harris's rally. It just wouldn't have been. I don't think there would have been, honestly, enough people at that rally who knew the words to that song. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump was singing along or that he knew every lyric, but I do think that that shows a significant portion of this movement. And you know, this coalition has expanded into Make America Healthy Again. So we've got RFK Jr., we've got Tulsi Gabbard, we've got Nicole Shanahan, we've got Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, and so many people who were in the center or center left, Russell Brand. And those people have linked arms with people like Tucker Carlson, and we've got Megyn Kelly, and the media landscape is so different than what it was just a few years ago. And COVID changed people, the BLM riots changed people for the better. And so it's such an interesting side that includes, as I said, someone like Joe Rogan and Bruce Jenner, and then you've got Allie Stuckey and people over here on the Christian right. And it really is such a formidable movement, and we all have our part to play. And I just want to thank you guys for your role. I got so many texts And I've gotten so many messages on Instagram, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond to any of them. Thousands and thousands of you reaching out to me, just expressing your enthusiasm and your gratitude, which I just did what I've been doing. I played a very small part in a huge story that had nothing to do with me at all. But I do have this microphone, and I realized the threat that America faced if Kamala Harris would become president. And I just determined that I was going to do everything that I could do with the platform that I have and the influence that I've been given to convince as many women, especially, and men, but really as many women, Christian women, as possible to look at the issues at stake from a biblical perspective. And yes, that did lead many women to then vote for Donald Trump. That was it's never been my number one goal to get people to vote Republican. My number one goal is to show you how the media uses manipulation tactics that I've dubbed toxic empathy to get you to believe that progressive ideology has the compassionate, righteous answers for the cultural and political and moral questions for the day, and that they're wrong about that. And that actually the Bible is very clear about many of these things when it comes to gender and marriage and sexuality and abortion, and even, I believe, things like justice and immigration. And that tends to right now push people towards the conservative side, which tends to push people towards the Republican side, which tends to push people toward Donald Trump. And I knew there was a difference between 2024 and 2020 when it came to the energy and engagement of Christian women when we had Share the Arrows. Share the Arrows was not a political conference. If you're new here, that is the first women's conference that I had. Share the Arrows means that we stand up together, we link arms, and we take together the arrows that the enemy throws at us, and we push back with goodness and truth and boldness. But when I had 4,000 women show up at a church, all singing together, "This is my Father's world," and listening to uncompromised, unrelenting biblical truth about sexuality and abortion and progressivism and motherhood and Christian courage, I knew that there was a difference between where we are now and where we were in 2020. And again, we didn't talk about Donald Trump at all at that conference. We didn't even talk about the election. We talked about the issues that are really theological issues underneath what happened in the election. And I'm not saying at all that that determined anything. I'm saying that I saw that as a symbol of where we are and what's to come. And I would feel like that even if Donald Trump lost. Even if Donald Trump had lost, I would feel really good about the direction that our country is going, largely because of what I saw at Share the Arrows, largely because of what I sense from you guys and the private conversations that I have had with many evangelicals, including evangelical leaders and pastors. 2020 was a very confusing time for a lot of people. Some people think it was because of COVID. It wasn't. It was because of George Floyd. And it was because of the whole social justice movement that confused and deceived a lot of Christians. By some estimations, Donald Trump got about 1 million fewer votes in 2020 from evangelicals than he did in 2016, and that he is going to have received in 2024. I 100% think it is because there was a great portion of evangelicals who were told by their pastors that voting for Trump is assenting to white supremacy and racism. And they imbibed a lot of the BLM propaganda out of a sense of guilt and out of this false belief that biblical racial reconciliation follows the way of Ibram X. Kendi and Robin DiAngelo. And I think that just duped a lot of people. It duped a lot of people. And interestingly, 2020 had a bad effect on Trump and his election outcomes then, and it had a really good effect on his election outcomes now. Because a lot of people have come to me every time I go somewhere and someone's like, hey, I started following you in 2020. It's because of the confusion of George Floyd, because there were a lot of us, but I was really one of the only people in the Christian women's space saying, I'm not pushing a black square. No, I'm sorry, that's not God's definition of justice. No, you're preaching a different gospel. No, that's partiality. No, social justice is not justice. No, being soft on crime is not loving. And no, I am not going to indict a group of people because they have less melanin. And I'm not going to alleviate of responsibility one group of people because they have more melanin. No, I'm just not doing that. And a lot of people were seeking clarity at that time. And I think that clarity has taken years to really catch on. But in this moment, and with the whole Make America Healthy Again, because of the craziness of COVID, in this moment, there was just a lot of courage and a lot of gumption. And so many of you who realize that politics matter because policy matters because people matter. And you put your reservations to the side. You put your distaste for Donald Trump's personality to the side. And by voting for Trump, I believe you did what was right for your kids and for your grandkids and for the country. And I'm just thankful for that. I'm thankful for the role that I got to play, a small role, gosh, in the grand scheme of things. But like, I will just say, without it trying to sound like that I am giving credit to us at all, because I'm not. It's all the grace of God, and so many people play their part. But this team at Relatable, we have been working really hard. Like, we have been, if I can just say, like, we have been working really, really hard to give you the best information and arguments possible. I'm not just someone who is delivering information. Some people will say, you know, people who don't understand what relatable is, oh, like, you're biased. Well, if you're going to say this about Trump, then you need to also say this about Kamala. Look, I'm never going to lie to you. I am always going to tell you the truth, but I'm also not going to pretend like I don't have an opinion or a perspective. I am not just giving you information on every episode. I am trying to persuade you on every episode. Just like every pastor, when he gets up and gives a sermon, he is trying to persuade you about what scripture says and what it actually means. I am giving you an argument. Now, many of you already agree with me, so I'm giving you tools to create your own arguments for others in your life, but I am trying to persuade you to a certain point, and everyone on this team, from Bree to Debbie to Kim to Vince and to George and to Nathan, to everyone, whether it was like operating cameras or whether it was researching, like, we have all been working really hard and really long hours over the past several months just to reach Relatable's demographic. Like, we're not going to have the same footprint that Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk has, but we are laser focused on the demographic that watches this podcast and that we want to watch this podcast. Like, we want to serve y'all. We want to talk about the things that you want us to and need us to talk about in a way that makes sense, in a way that offers clarity and courage in an age of cowardice and confusion. That is what Relatable is about, and we have tried really hard to do that. And sometimes we've done it well, sometimes I haven't done it as well. And I'm just thankful for the grace of God. And really, without you guys, I'm just talking to the void. Without you guys, this is a diary, not a podcast. And so it's really not me at all. Like, you guys, you are the ones who are going out into your community. You are the ones risking your reputation and risking your job and risking your friendships to go out there and to say what is true about these controversial issues. So you guys deserve all the kudos. I just wanted to get as much of the Christian mom vote, the Christian woman vote as I could. And I did whatever I could to do that. And I'm thankful to have played a small role in that. All right, let's go through some of these numbers that I think are interesting. And then we'll close out with some funny memes. But first, let me pause, tell you about our next sponsor for the day. Okay, Good Ranchers has an awesome deal for you right now. They are giving you a free Thanksgiving ham with any order of one of their boxes of all American meat. So you choose any box of their 100% American meat. That's craft beef, that's better than organic chicken, that's wild caught seafood. And with that order, you get a free 10-pound spiral cut ham that is the value of $110, but you get it for free. And this stuff is so good, y'all. I love our Good Ranchers. They've got seed oil free chicken nuggets. They've got amazing bacon. We eat Good Ranchers every single day in our home. This is a Christian family-owned company that you can trust and you can rely on. Get that subscription. It shows up to your front door every month. Makes your life so much easier. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout for that free ham. Goodranchers.com, code Allie. All right, so here's where we are on the swing states. We are still waiting as I am recording this on Arizona. 61% reporting as you are listening to this or watching this. It'll be different, but it's favoring Trump right now. Florida, obviously good to go. Trump won by 13 points. Again, Ron DeSantis taking the state from a purple state to a solidly red state. Who was the guy? Andrew Gillum. Wasn't he the guy that was running against Ron DeSantis in 2018? And it was close. It was neck and neck. Imagine if Andrew Gillum, the guy who ended up like getting caught in a hotel room with all kinds of drugs in his system, like in an orgy, terrible person. But like, imagine if he had been running the state of Florida during COVID. Oh my gosh. Thank God for Ron DeSantis. He might not get the same credit that Trump does, but like he has been so formidable and so formative in this shift of the entire country to the right. We're waiting on Michigan. I was just talking to my dad. He's like, I don't understand why we're still waiting. We've got 98% reporting favoring Trump, and he's at 49.8% right now. But you know, I don't think there's any reason to think there's any funny business, because it wouldn't matter. It would just be nice. Like, he wants the biggest win possible, and because then it's harder to contest. But obviously he's already won. Minnesota, Democrat +4. That is not as big of a margin as Kamala Harris would want. Nevada, we are still waiting, favoring Trump. 84% reporting right now. North Carolina, R+3. I do think that the disaster that we saw in North Carolina and the horrible response and the callousness from Biden and Harris after that really helped Trump in the state of North Carolina. Then we've got Pennsylvania, R+2. That is flipped from 2020. Virginia, D+5. Some people don't even consider Virginia a swing state. But it is interesting because it does have Glenn Youngkin, a Republican governor. That was a huge upset race a few years ago, and he is solidly Republican. He's not squishy. I really like Glenn Youngkin. I think he is really strong. And then Wisconsin flipped from last time, R+1. So that's amazing. And then we've got some incredible races in the Senate. A lot of people were worried about the Senate if Republicans were going to gain control of that. The GOP won a handful of key races. The Republicans flipped West Virginia and Ohio Senate seats there. One race that became surprisingly competitive in the final stretch of the campaign, Nebraska, brought the GOP over the finish line. Jim Justice, West Virginia's current governor, won the Senate seat vacated by former Democrat Joe Manchin, while Bernie Moreno in Ohio unseated Democrat incumbent Sherrod Brown, which was huge. And Montana Democratic veteran John Tester lost to Republican Tim Sheehy. So just pretty incredible. And then we've also got some highlights out of Arizona. The Democrat beat Kerry Lake, still reporting, but he has a pretty big lead there. That is not surprising to me. It's not surprising to me, y'all. And I won't get into all that. We don't have time to analyze Kerry Lake's political career, but it's just, again, just not shocking to me. Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren won. How? Montana, Tim Sheehy already said that flipped. And then we've got Nebraska, Republican incumbents there. Ted Cruz, thank the Lord, won in Texas over Colin Allred. Those ads were absolutely insufferable from Colin Allred. He was trying to portray himself as this like independent, good old boy football player that is, you know, right in the middle of it. He literally said in his ads, I don't believe in men in girls' sports. Well, yeah, because he actually believes that a man can become a woman. And so a man who declares himself a woman who plays in a woman's sports, he would say by definition is not a man in women's sports. But he was a complete and total liar. He would have voted right in alignment with all of the Democrats because he did. That's what he already did in his career, and he would have continued to do that. He was a radical in every sense. That was never going to work. He took so much outside money. And it just, people didn't buy it. People didn't buy it. People do not want boys in girls' sports. And you Democrats decided to go all in on that. Wow. So in the House, Republicans so far are leading. Results are still expected from a number of races. As we said at the beginning, only one House seat is flipped. Michigan District 7, Tom Barrett. In all other seats counted, either the incumbent was reelected or the party remained unchanged. All right, let's look at some of these amendments because this is where we talked about some not so happy news. In Arizona, Arizona is such an interesting state. It truly is purple. Proposition 139. This is the abortion amendment. It's an amendment, as we talked about on the show, was it last week or the week before, that establishes a fundamental right to abortion through all 9 months. It needed a simple majority to pass, and it passed with 61.7%. And, as we talked about, the demonic reality there, if you look at Psalm 139, that is the passage that pro-lifers cite most to support our fight for the dignity, the legal rights of unborn children, because in Psalm 139, 14 through 16, we see God saying that life inside the womb matters. You formed me in my mother's womb. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That's what Psalm 139 says about life inside the womb. And that God purposely gave us that intricate and beautiful and poetic description of unborn life. It's so obvious what Christians are supposed to think about babies in the womb and their legal right to life, of course. And yet some Christians pretend to be confused about this, but it's actually just because they love sin. And if you love sin and you love the legality of sin, then you really need to think about where your own heart is and if you truly have the Holy Spirit when it comes to that issue, for sure. And so this was a demonic proposition to pass. And I would just say, if you live in the state of Arizona, please look up your local pregnancy center. Look up your local pregnancy center. Go there and volunteer. And if you own a pregnancy center in Arizona, reach out to me. First of all, I love speaking at pro-life fundraisers and banquets. I speak at a lot of them throughout the year, but I love it because I love calling people to courage, and I love helping you guys get people to donate their time and their resources that they have to save those babies. Like, I'm really passionate about that. I love doing it. And so Arizona, if you are there, like, let me know how I can help, whether it's just like getting the word out about your pregnancy center, or whether it's actually coming there and helping gain enthusiasm as much as I can for your cause. I would love to help. Just pray for the babies of Arizona, because it's now become an abortion sanctuary state. Then we've got Florida. So we've got some happy news there. The Right to Abortion Initiative failed, thank the Lord. 57% voted yes, though. It needed 60%. That is so close. That is so close. Come on, Florida. But good job, Ron DeSantis and Casey DeSantis, on that. And then we've got Maryland, question 1, the right to reproductive freedom. Of course, that's a euphemism. It did pass. 74% voted in the state of Maryland to make killing a child in the womb a human right through all 9 months. Missouri, man, what a failure here. Also, their Right to Reproductive Freedom Initiative allowing abortion through all 9 months. It passed. It needed a simple majority. Montana, the right to abortion initiative, also passed. And so it's so interesting that people voted against Kamala Harris, who ran exclusively on abortion, but in many of these states, even red states, they voted to amend their constitution to allow abortion through all 9 months. And I guarantee you it's largely because of the propaganda in those states. And some people did believe, well, okay, I don't have to have Harris, but at least here in my state, women can get the miscarriage care that they need, or they can have the choice that they need. And it's just sad. I mean, you made a horrible, horrible, demonic, depraved, evil decision when you did that. And that's really a shame. So again, if you're in Missouri, if you're in Montana, make sure you are working hard. You are working hard at your pro-life pregnancy centers to save as many lives as possible. We've got the state of Nebraska, Initiative 434 would prohibit abortions after the first trimester. Initiative 439 would have established a fundamental right to abortion through 24 weeks or even after that, as long as the general health of the mother would have been affected. And it was Initiative 434 that prohibits abortions after 12 weeks that passed in the state of Nebraska. So of course, that is better than Initiative 439 passing, although of course, like, babies in the first trimester are just as much human as babies in the second trimester. And so it's still sad when any baby can be legally killed in the United States. Thankfully, in South Dakota, the amendment to protect abortion through all 9 months failed. And let's see, if we look at crime, Proposition 313 in Arizona, that would require anyone convicted of child sex trafficking to receive a sentence of life imprisonment, it passed. Praise God. Colorado would require that persons convicted of certain violent crimes serve more of their sentences before being eligible for parole. Pass. So people don't want crime anymore. People don't want crime, okay? Whether you live in Colorado, Arizona, or even California. Proposition 36, drug and theft crime penalties and treatment mandated felonies, increased penalties for certain drug crimes, increased sentences for certain levels of crimes, and it further criminalizes things that had basically been decriminalized, like petty theft in the state of California. It passed with 70%. So this actually reversed California's soft on crime, Prop 47. So people can still see clearly they don't want crime. Florida Amendment 3, it would have legalized recreational marijuana. It failed. It needed 60% to pass, and it only got 55.8%. Let's see. Also, the weed amendment in Massachusetts failed. The weed amendment in Nebraska passed. What are you guys doing? North Dakota, weed amendment failed there. South Dakota, weed amendment failed there. That would have just created pervasive weed use everywhere. Nebraska, you are going to regret that. Another dumb decision. There was a bad night in general, though, for the potheads. And for that, I rejoice. Also, something that people do not want in general. They don't want illegal immigrants voting in their elections. Arizona passed Proposition 314 that would allow police to arrest non-citizens who enter Arizona from foreign countries. In Idaho, they said they want you to have to be a citizen in order to vote. That amendment passed. Same thing in Iowa, same thing in Kentucky, same thing in Missouri, same thing in North Carolina, same thing in Oklahoma, in Wisconsin, and South Carolina. And that is why Donald Trump won. Because in every state, people are tired of illegal immigration. Doesn't mean they hate immigrants at all. They just realize it's a totally untenable situation, and it's not safe, it's not fair, it's not just. And so those people need to go home and try to come back and do it the right way. The school choice amendments in Colorado and Kentucky failed. So that's interesting. All right. A couple other things I want to talk about. Let me tell you about our last sponsor for the day first. Well, we are happy that Trump won, but we still don't know what's going to happen in the next few days or few months. And it's just better to be prepared, whether it's a political disaster or whether it's some kind of natural calamity, you just want to make sure that you have access to the medicine that you and your family rely on, or the medicine that you and your family might need to save your life. If for whatever reason you can't get to the pharmacy or through to your doctor, you want to make sure that you have an emergency stash of antibiotics and EpiPen, ivermectin, Tamiflu, just in case you need it. That's why you need the Jace case from Jace Medical. You can also get a Jace Daily case. That's a year-long supply of the prescriptions that you and your family rely on. So much better to be safe than sorry when it comes to this kind of thing. So go to jace.com, use code Allie at checkout for a discount on your order. That is Allie at JASE.com. Okay, now I want to put up this map from the New York Times. So interesting. When you look at all of the counties, all of these arrows right here represent all of the counties that moved right. Isn't that fascinating? So many in the middle of the country and the eastern part of the country moved right significantly over the past 4 years. A few counties moved to the left, but this map is just a perfect encapsulation of where we have gone since 2020. And we don't have time to break down every single county that moved significantly towards Trump, but like we're looking at places like Starr County, Texas. Starr County is the most Hispanic county in the state of Texas, likely in the whole country, and Donald Trump won in Starr County. A Republican has not won in Starr County since I believe it's 1892. Miami-Dade moved significantly toward Donald Trump. Loudoun County in Virginia is still a blue county, extremely blue, moved more toward Trump than they did in 2020, which is interesting. Let's look at some of the exit polling, including the Latino vote, which I think is really interesting. Let's start in men and women. This is according to CBS, ABC News, Washington Post, the exit polling that we have there, which only can tell us so much. But men broke for Trump, women breaking for Harris. These margins are similar to 2020. Nationally, Harris had a 10-point advantage with women, 54% to Trump's 44%. I do think that Trump's podcast campaign really helped. And I meant to mention this at the beginning, but like Trump's coolness factor went up so much because of his podcast tour and because of the McDonald's stunt, because of the garbage truck, because of the assassination attempt, because going on Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and all of these things. But I do still wish that they had gone on some female podcasts. Obviously, it doesn't matter now. It really doesn't. And so maybe their strategy worked out exactly right. But I do think he still could have gained more of that female vote, but that coolness factor really made a difference among young people. Trump won 42% of voters aged 18 to 29 nationwide. Harris wins 55%. Trump's share is up 6 percentage points from 2020 in an exit poll. Voters under the age of 45, Harris wins 53% of voters. Under age 45, Trump wins 44, but still pretty good. Trump won 55 of white voters nationwide. It's actually down 3 percentage points from a 2020 poll. Harris won 47% of white women voters nationwide. Trump wins 52%. Oh my goodness, that was hard fought. That was so hard fought. Harris was going for the white woman vote from the very beginning. Harris won 86% of black voters nationwide. Trump won 12%. That's really unchanged from a 2020 exit poll. Progressive white males on Reddit are really sad about this. One person said that this is a white male who voted for Harris. Tonight is the death of my empathy, he said. As a white male fighting oppression my whole adult life, this is the death of my empathy. How can I care about cops killing black people when black people showed up to vote for the cops? How can I care about young girls denied health care for a pregnancy gone wrong when her own mother voted against her rights? Weird. How can I care about genocide when Muslims voted for Zionists? Okay. So people are not well on Reddit, but it's a day that ends in Y. This is really, I think, what was such a game changer for Trump. the historic Hispanic vote. So Trump won 45% of Hispanic voters nationwide, and Harris won 53%. And so that is still a majority for Harris, but Trump's share is up 13 percentage points from 2020. 53% of Hispanic men voters nationwide. That is huge. That's obviously the majority there, and that is up 17 percentage points from 2020. 37% of Hispanic women voters nationwide. In 2020, Biden won that Starr County that I told you about. And in 2016, Clinton won 79% of the vote in Starr County, Texas. And this time, Trump won it with almost 60%. Most Hispanics in this country do not want illegal immigration, and they actually typically have to bear the brunt of it. Many of them live in these border towns. And if you're looking at some of the crimes committed, very often these illegal aliens are targeting immigrants who live here. The South Texas vote really shifted toward Trump, and it's just incredible. This is also amazing. Ted Cruz won Latino voters in Texas by 6 points per NBC. In his last race in 2018, Cruz lost Latinos by 29 points. That was a 35-point swing. Oh my goodness. Like, how is it working out for Democrats to call Republicans white supremacists and Nazis? It's not working out. And even though Trump's share of black voters, it doesn't look like really shifted all that much from 2020, there were some counties, it seemed, that constituted a large portion, or Black Americans constituted a large portion of these counties that did go for Trump that didn't last time. So just a lot of interesting things to look at there when it comes to how the country is reshaping itself. We got to look at evangelical voters last. Based on exit polling data, there were 13.8 million fewer white evangelical voters this election cycle than in 2020. There were 5 million fewer white evangelical voters in 2024 than in 2016. That sucks. And that is so stupid. Like, I don't have time to give you a lecture right now, and it's probably pointless. I feel like I've been spending the past 6 months talking about the importance of Christian engagement, and you guys listening to or watching this know this, but I really blame the pastors. The pastors who decided that the only thing they had to say to their congregation was, well, both sides are kind of bad and Jesus is coming back. I mean, you so fail to understand the assignment, to understand church history and the Christian legacy of engaging in the culture for the good of others and the advancement of the gospel. It was never about power. It was never about Donald Trump. It was about the reality that God's ways are better. And because God's ways are better, we want them for our neighbor. And we, just like everyone else with all of their belief systems, have the right and responsibility to bring the fullness of our worldview into the public sphere. But because you guys decided to sit out, now we are looking at a Republican Party that looks less like Christian values and more like secular values. And you are going to be counted out of the equation when it comes to future elections, because they're like, well, we can't rely on them anyway. And so we might as well appeal to the center left. That's not a good look. And we're not going to like the future there. And so over the next 4 years, it's time to get it together. And, I'm going to be right here working on that. Evangelical voters still, of course, broke for Donald Trump. Of those who did vote, the 30.5 million of them, 81%, those are white evangelicals. Yeah, 81% of the white evangelical vote, that totaled approximately 24.7 million white evangelical voters. In 2020, 19% of all voters were white evangelicals. In 2016, 20% of the electorate were white evangelicals. So Christians, we got some work to do. We got some work to do in understanding the policies and why politics matter. But I'm glad that we were able to I'm still glad that we were able to, with the coalition that we have, gain a victory here. Okay, let's end with some funny memes. Okay, first we've got this. I loved this. This made me laugh out loud. We've got Vivek. This is a parody of Vivek, by the way, who tweeted out this. He said, Joe Biden, when he sees Kamala walking into the White House meeting room after losing the election, and if you're listening to this, it's Tom Brady, like, looking to see who's coming in, and kind of this like sly, mischievous look on his face, because there's this big joke going around that Joe Biden and Jill did not want Kamala Harris to win. And there is reportedly a lot of tension between the two camps. And I'll show the picture of this, that Jill Biden she wore all red to vote yesterday. Is that not a weird look as the wife of a Democrat politician? Here's another joke. White liberal woman. That joke wasn't funny. Latino voters. My gallon of milk cost $4. Of course, referencing that joke at Madison Square Garden that so many people pretended to be mad about. So Darren Beatty, I don't know who this person is losing the popular vote brat? Is it? Is it? And we also have this picture of Joe Biden wearing his Trump MAGA hat just a few weeks ago, as he was apparently on the campaign trail. And so, I don't know, maybe the Bidens helped us win. Oh, by the way, we've got new merch out, alliemerch.com. God's eternal plan of redemption is always going off without a hitch. We've got mugs. We've got a yard sign. Super cute. It's just a great reminder of who is in charge. All right, guys. We did it! Yay! I'm doing my Trump dance right now. All right, enjoy this day. Be on cloud 9. It's going to be an awesome 4 years. See you guys back here tomorrow.